Hello all, my name is Pavan Kumar and welcome to my YouTube channel. Guys, today in this particular video, we are going to start our Python programming playlist. So Python programming is one of the most preferred programming language in the field of IT, especially when it comes to data science domain. Python programming is mostly preferred compared to other programming language. Even if you learn R programming language is also fine. You can become a data science professional. But since Python is comparatively easier and it has too many library packages and it's comparatively a fast programming language compared to other programming language, so Python programming is mostly preferred. So if you learn Python programming, you can become a Python developer, you can become a data science professional, you can become a data scientist, you can become a data engineer, you can become a data consultant, you can become data services consultant, you can also become a DevOps engineer, you can become a software engineer, you can also become a machine learning engineer, and you can also become any other like software domain, because most of the IT domains nowadays they are expecting Python programming. So if you learn Python programming, you can enter into the various domains in the field of IT. So let's learn Python from scratch. Let's learn Python everything from basics, because basics is the base of any programming language. So if you are strong with basics, then probably you can master any programming language. Don't go directly into the complexities of any programming language directly. So learn basics and revolve around basics and spend more time on basics, then it will be easy for you to learn any other programming language. So let's learn Python, and just follow this playlist so you can learn Python programming, and it will be easy for you to crack any other data science interview, or if you want to become a software engineer in the field of data science domain. So there are a lot of opportunities if you learn a Python programming. So there are a lot of job opportunities with very good packages, and so let's start the Python programming playlist and let's learn Python everything from scratch. Now let's do one of the most simplest programming language, Python programming. Now let's see like how to do programming in Python in a Jupyter Notebook environment. Okay, so now let's type print and open the bracket and type the quotation. So welcome to India. So this is the input what we have given, print welcome to India. So now let's run. If you want to run this particular cell, you can click on run, or you can also press Ctrl Enter. So that is also one of the way where you can run this particular cell. So now you can see welcome to India. Suppose if you want to insert the new cell below that particular cell, means you can click here, then you can press B in your keyboard. So once you press B in your keyboard, it will automatically add a new cell below this particular cell. Suppose if you want to add a new cell above this particular cell, means you can, I will show you to do it. Suppose if you want to add a new cell above this particular cell, then you can click here, then you can press A. So then it will automatically add a new cell above that particular cell. Okay, so now let's see like how to give the input, so that once we give the input, so how exactly it will automatically take. Let's see. So let's type name is equal to input, and we'll see what is your name. Okay, so let's run this particular cell. So here it shows a star, that means that cell is still running. So since we have not given any input still, so still it's running. So we'll give some input here. What's your name? I will give my name as jack, just for an example. So now let's run this particular cell. Now press enter. So here you can see what is your name, jack. Okay, so now we'll see like how to use this particular variable name. So we'll see like print how are you. So now let's run this particular cell. You can see how are you, jack, because this is the variable and this is the input what we have given. So what is your name? So once you run this particular cell, it will automatically ask you what is your name. It will ask for the input. So whatever the name what we give here, suppose if we give as Mike, then press enter. So it will automatically take the whatever the input you have given and it will throw the output. So now if we use this particular variable name, and now if we type print how are you comma name, so now let's run this particular cell. It will ask, it will show the output as how are you, Mike. Okay, hello all. My name is Pavan Kumar and welcome to my YouTube channel. Guys, today in this particular video we are going to continue our playlist on Python. So let's see and let's understand some of the Python basic concepts. Okay, so let's get into this. Let's begin our Python playlist show. Okay, so we have already seen like how to print in how to give the input and how to get the output in Python programming. So we have seen some of the very basic concepts like how to print welcome to India and how to give the input using the name as a variable, and we have given the name as a Mike, and we also saw like how we get the output after giving the input, and we also changed some of the name in the input by using the name as a variable, and we also saw like how the changes will be reflected in Python. Okay, so now we are going to continue our second playlist towards Python programming, and now let's see like how the print command works in Python programming, and we also see like how the Python programming gives the output by using the print option. Okay, so basically in Python what happens is like it runs the code line by line. Okay, suppose now if you are typing something here, let's see like suppose you are typing hello everyone. Okay, hello. Okay, we'll type it as hello world. Okay, so suppose if we run this particular cell or particular line, it will run and it will give the output. Okay, so for everything, for if we want to get the output for the Python programming, we have to run all the cells line by line or the cell by cell. Okay, so we'll see like some of the other concepts, like we'll see some of the other basic thing like how exactly the line by line works in Python programming. Okay, let's see like how exactly it works. So we'll give it like print. Okay, and I will give it as something like h. We'll take it as h. Okay, and I will just copy this particular print h, and I will just copy it, and again I will paste it here, and again I will paste it here, and again I will paste it here, again I will paste it here. Okay, so any idea guys, like if I run this particular cell, like what exactly the output may be? Okay, yeah, that's right, you are right. So we can see 5 different print h, and we'll give one more, we'll add 1 or 2 h here, and let's see like how exactly it works. So before giving this, like we'll run this first, then we'll see how exactly it runs. So now you can see 5 different h. So as I told you, like print command, it it runs Python programming runs line by line. Whatever we give and whatever we give like this, it will run line by line. Let's make some changes here and let's see how exactly it works. So here I will try to add a few more h. Okay, so now let's see like how exactly we get the output. These are all the very basic concepts in Python, guys. Okay, I'm not going to any advanced concepts as of now, so we'll focus more on basics. We'll make as much as possible more videos on basics itself, rather than going to advanced concepts. Okay, so directly we'll not jump into any advanced concepts. We'll go step by step, and we'll make video like anybody can understand the Python. Like we will make it like even a 10th standard student can also understand Python programming. Okay, okay, so now let's see like now we'll try to run this particular cell. Okay, so now you can see like here you can see one h, and in this particular third line you can see more number of h because I have given more number of h here. Okay, and now let's see like now we'll go for another example. Okay, suppose if you want to type any particular symbol. Okay, so we'll take it example of some dollar symbol. Okay, suppose if you run this particular cell, sorry, print. Okay, and it will give the output as dollar because in the print what we have given dollar. Okay, suppose if you want to print $2, so now what you have to do, so obviously we will give $2, and once we run this we get the $2 as output. Okay, we'll add few more cells below because we are going to see some of the more examples. Okay, and now you might ask me, Pavan, if I want to print more than $50, so like do you think like we need to type $50 here? Obviously that is also one of the reason. Like if you type $50, definitely you, once you run this, definitely you will get the output as $50. Okay, but we'll use some of the shortcut method, and let's see like do we get $50 or not. Okay, 50 times dollar symbol, so we'll use star, and we'll enter 50 because we need 50 times. Okay, now let's run. Okay, now you are getting $50. 50 times you are getting the dollar symbol. Okay, so this is the one of the special feature of Python, guys. It's very simple and it's very easy to understand. Anybody can understand Python programming. So we'll learn everything step by step. So now we have already seen if I want dollars 50 times means we can do it like this. Suppose if you want any other symbol, you will take an example of hash symbol. Okay, even you can print hash symbol, and similarly if you want hash symbol more than 10 times or any number of times, so you can just press the number of times you want, star, that means into multiplied by 25 times. And so we'll run this particular cell, so 25 number of times we can see the hash symbol here. Okay, so this is how the print command works in Python programming, guys. It's very simple. So that's all about this print option. And now let's perform some of the basic operations in Python programming. Okay, let's see like how exactly the Python programming works. We'll do some kind of basic operation. Okay, so we'll take it x as 10 and y as 15. Okay, so x is a variable, y is also a variable, and x we have defined as 10 and y we have defined as 15. Okay, and we'll run this particular cell. Okay, now it's already taken x as 10, y as 15, and now let's press z is equal to x plus y. Okay, so now let's run this particular cell, and now let's see like what we will get the output. So we didn't get any output, so we have given z is equal to x plus y, but we didn't get any output here. What is the reason? Exactly, because we have not used the print option here. So print z. So what might be the output? 10 plus 15, that's 25. Yes, we got the 25 as the output. Okay, so we can also perform the operations by using any other variable. Okay, so here I have just taken x as 10, y as 15 as I have just taken that as an example. Okay, we can also replace x, y, z by abc, and we can perform the operation. Okay, so we'll see an example by we have taken the example of addition. We'll take an example of subtraction. Now let's see how exactly it performs. So now again let's assign x is equal to, we have already taken x as 10, y is 15. Now let's perform the subtraction. Z is equal to x minus y. Okay, so now let's run this particular cell, and we didn't get any output here because I have not used print still. So now let's see what is the output, what we are expecting. So now press Ctrl Enter. Now we can see minus 5 as the output for this particular operation. Okay, so similarly we can perform for multiplication. We'll use multiplication. So z is equal to x into y. And now let's run this particular cell and see what is the output, x into y. So what is the answer, guys? 10 into 15, exactly, that's 150. So now we can see 150. Now we'll go for division. Z is equal to we'll perform x divided by y. Okay, and now let's run this and print z. Okay, and then now let's run this particular cell. Yes, you can see 0.6666 something. Okay, so we have performed addition, subtraction, multiplication and division. Okay, so this is how we perform the basic arithmetic operations in Python programming. So in the coming videos we'll go step by step, and as we go step by step, probably you may feel little bit difficult, but not much difficult, but still we revolve more around basics, and we'll see in the coming videos. Okay, so guys, continuing our playlist towards Python programming, today we are going to learn variables in Python programming. Okay, so before we begin our main topic, let's understand what are variables, then we'll see like variables in Python programming. Okay, so in a simple way we can say like variables are the containers or the pointers which store the value, whether it can be a string or it can be a number, and it can be of any size. So let's mention in comments like variables are the containers or pointers which can store strings or numbers or anything irrespective of size. Okay, so we'll see with an example of pointers in Python programming. Okay, so let's give it as variable 1. Okay, for example, variable 1 which contains value of we can use any name. We can give it as India. Okay, so var1 is the pointer or variable which contains India as a value. Okay, so now let's try to run this particular cell with var1 is equal to India. Now let's run. So now the var1 contains the value India. Okay, now suppose if you want to print that particular variable, now let's print. Now can you guess what would be the answer for this? Exactly, the value would be India, the output would be India. Okay, so here you can see print of var1, so the output would be India. So now let's try with the number or integer. Var2 is equal to, we'll give some number, we'll give it as 10, and in the variable 2 we have stored 10 as a value. And now let's try to run this particular cell, and now let's try to print that particular var2, and now let's see like what would be the output. Exactly, the output would be 10. Okay, so this is how we define the variables in Python programming. Variables are the containers or the pointers which can store string, numbers or anything irrespective of size. Okay, so we'll see another example. Variable 3, and we'll try with by giving an input. Okay, so we'll give some input. We'll give it as what's your name. Okay, so variable 3 we have given as input of what's your name. So here it will ask what's your name, then finally we'll print that particular variable. Okay, so now let's try to run this particular cell. So now let's run by pressing Ctrl Enter. Okay, so first it will ask what's your name, so we'll just type it as my name as a Jason. Okay, my name is not Jason, guys, I'm just taking Jason as an example. Okay, now it's coming what's your name, and I have given Jason, and here it's printing the output as the value as Jason. So now what we understand is, so here we given what's your name as the input in variable 3, and we have given Jason as the name for that particular variable. We have given Jason as the input for that particular variable which is stored in var3, and finally we are printing var3 which contains Jason as the input for that particular variable var3. So hope you understood what exactly the variables are. So the variables are the pointers or the containers which contains or which can store the string, numbers or anything irrespective of the size. So now let's try with some other example by adding string for that particular variable, and now let's try to see how we get the output for that particular variable. Okay, so we'll give var as var4 is equal to, we'll give some input, and we'll give it as who is your favorite cricketer? Cricketer, what's the spelling is? Cricketer. Okay, am I correct? So what's the spelling for cricketer, guys? I'm also forgetting. Now let's see. Let's try to find out. Okay, sometimes I do forget the things. So cricketer, we'll just copy this. Okay, so who is your favorite cricketer? And we'll use some question mark here at the end of this particular question. And here we'll try to print the value. Your favorite cricketer. My favorite cricketer is Wherefore. Okay, so now let's try to run this particular cell, and now let's see like how exactly it runs and how exactly we'll try to get the output. So now let's run this particular cell. Run. So who is your favorite cricketer? So my favorite cricketer is Sachin. So I will give it as a Sachin Tendulkar. Okay, so now let's run this particular cell. Not running, we'll just press enter. So here's the output what we get, guys. My favorite cricketer is Sachin Tendulkar, because here I have given my favorite cricketer as a string in this particular line with the print command or the print function. So, and finally in the end I have given wherefore. So because Sachin Tendulkar is the input what we have given for this particular variable wherefore. Okay, so this is how exactly the variable in Python programming, guys. So I hope you like this particular video, and please do subscribe to my channel if you're not already subscribed, and see you again in the next video, and further we'll continue Python programming playlist in the next video. Okay, thank you one and all. See you. Bye bye. Okay, now it's coming. What's your name? And I have given Jason, and here it's printing the output as the value as Jason. So now what we understand is, so here we given what's your name as the input in variable 3, and we have given Jason as the name for that particular variable. We have given Jason as the input for that particular variable which is stored in var3, and finally we are printing var3 which contains Jason as the input for that particular variable var3. So hope you understood what exactly the variables are. So the variables are the pointers or the containers which contains or which can store the string, numbers or anything irrespective of the size. So now let's try with some other example by adding string for that particular variable, and now let's try to see how we get the output for that particular variable. Okay, so we'll give var as var4 is equal to, we'll give some input, and we'll give it as who is your favorite cricketer. Okay, so who is your favorite cricketer, and we'll use some question mark here at the end of this particular question, and here we'll try to print the value your favorite cricketer. My favorite cricketer is wherefore. Okay, so now let's try to run this particular cell, and now let's see like how exactly it runs and how exactly we'll try to get the output. So now let's run this particular cell. Run. So who is your favorite cricketer? So my favorite cricketer is Sachin, so I will give it as a Sachin Tendulkar. Okay, so we'll just press enter. So here's the output what we get, guys. My favorite cricketer is Sachin Tendulkar, because here I have given my favorite cricketer as a string in this particular line with the print command or the print function. So, and finally in the end I have given wherefore. So because Sachin Tendulkar is the input what we have given for this particular variable wherefore. Okay, so this is how exactly the variable in Python programming, guys. So I hope you like this particular video. Hello all, my name is Pavan Kumar and welcome to my YouTube channel. Guys, today in this particular video we are going to continue our playlist towards Python programming, and today we are going to continue with some of the conditions in using the Python variables, and we also move with other topic called typecasting in Python programming. So before we begin our main topic, if you are visiting my channel for the first time, please do subscribe to my channel and please press the bell notification icon to get all updates related to my YouTube channel. So let's get into this. So let's begin our topic on variables and typecasting. Okay, so in the previous video we discussed about variables in Python programming, but today in this particular video we are going to continue with variables, the conditions in using the variables in Python programming. So once we use the Python variables, like parallelly we should also use that we should also know that what are the conditions and what are the contradictions to use the variable names. Okay, so for example, like yesterday we have used variables like var1 or var2, like that and all. Okay, so we didn't discuss about like how to use the variable names. Okay, so now we are going to discuss what are the conditions in using the Python variable. Okay, so we'll just mention comments like conditions in using the Python variables. Okay, so the first condition in using the Python variable is the variable name should never begin with a number. Okay, so you might ask like Pavan, yesterday you have used like var1, var2 and all. Okay, so here I have used the number after this, after using var, like that. Okay, so here you can't use any variable starting like 2 var or 56 var or like 45 jk, like that. Okay, so the first condition in using a Python variable is variable name should never begin with variable names should never begin with starting from numbers. Okay, so you might get confused like why this from is coming in a green, because the from is a keyword in Python programming. Okay, so don't worry, like we will mention this in comments so that there won't be any problem in using the keywords. Okay, so the second condition in using the variable name is any idea, guys, like what would be the second condition in using the variable name? Okay, so I will tell you. The second condition is Python is case sensitive, guys. Python is case sensitive. case sensitive. For example, if we have used a variable as var1, and you have to use the same variable name whenever you are giving the input for that particular variable, or whenever you are assigning a value for it. Suppose if you have used var1, and whenever you want to recall that particular variable, so you have to use the same format like var1 itself. Okay, you can't use like you can't use it like capital V var1. Okay, so this is the second condition in using the Python variable. Okay, so the third condition is it's not a condition, I can say like it's a general in using a Python variable. So unlike other programming language, so here you need not declare the type of the variable before using the variable. So you can directly declare the variable like var1 is equal to something, whatever the name you are giving or something and all. But in other programming languages, you have to declare the type of variable before using any variable. Okay, so these are the conditions in using the Python variable. There might be some other conditions also, so you can just Google it. I am just mentioning the top 3 conditions in using the Python variables. Okay, so you can just Google it. If you Google it, you will get a lot of other conditions also, might be. Okay, so let's begin our another topic called typecasting in Python programming. Okay, type we'll just use it in a markdown. Okay, typecasting in Python programming. Okay, so this is the markdown, guys, in using whenever you are using any whenever you are doing any project, or whenever you are doing any work in a Jupyter notebook. So this is the markdown. So using this markdown, it's like a heading in whenever you are doing some project or something. Like you can also mention it using like a comments. So whenever if you use like markdown, and whenever you run this, so it will show in a way, it shows like a heading, or it shows like a big comment, something like that. Like it also can indicate the type of the project or the type of the topic which you are discussing. Okay, on what topic you are discussing, like that. Okay, so here I have mentioned as typecasting in Python programming. Okay, so before we begin our main topic on typecasting in Python programming, so let's understand what is typecasting. Typecasting is nothing but converting one data type to another data type in Python programming is known as typecasting. So let's mention that in a comments. The process of converting one data type to other data type is known as typecasting in Python programming. Okay, so let's see some of the examples, like how to use the typecasting in Python programming. Okay, so yesterday we have used variables, and we have also discussed about the variables and like how to use the variables and all. Okay, so now let's again take the example of variables only, so in order to understand the typecasting in Python programming. Okay, so let's use it like var1 is equal to some we'll use it like some, we'll give some input, and we'll see how to use the typecasting in Python programming. So var1 is equal to input of what's your salary. Okay, so salary is always confidential, guys, like nobody will disclose their salary, but still I'm just taking salary as an example in using the typecasting. Okay, so var1 is equal to input of what's your salary, and here it will print the salary whatever that particular person is getting. Okay, so let's run this particular cell. Okay, so what's your salary? I will just mention my salary as a $500. I will just mention it as 500, and now let's press enter. Okay, so now it's coming. What's your salary means it's showing 500. Okay, suppose if I want to show that 500 in terms of other currency, suppose let's assume like here I have mentioned salary 500 in terms of dollars. Suppose if I want to convert that 500 into in terms of like rupees or any other currencies, now let's take an example and now let's see like how exactly we show the output. Okay, so here let's print it like my salary is var1. Okay, so if I run this particular cell, it will show directly 500. My salary is 500. Okay, so if I want to know what is the salary in terms of rupees. Okay, so let's see like how exactly it shows. Print my salary in rupees is suppose if you use var1 into 75, because let's take an example like $1 is equal to 75 rupees, and if I take 500 into 75 means like whatever the amount you get it, calculator will see with the calculator. Okay, suppose I will type 500 into 75. Okay, so in terms of rupees my salary should be 37,500. Okay, now suppose if I run this particular cell, like any idea like what would be the output? So if you think like it will directly show with the output of 37,500, then you are absolutely wrong, guys. So here it will show some other different output. Now let's see like what exactly we get the output. Yes, because var1 whatever we have given input, it's taking in terms of string, guys. Okay, so here we have to convert that particular string into another format like an integer format. So once we convert that particular string into integer format, then we'll get the output, whatever the output we are trying to get it. Okay, so we have given the input what is your salary, and we have given 500, and 500 is considered in terms of string in Python programming, and here it's showing my salary is 500, and this is also a string. And again we are trying to print my salary in rupees is var1 star 75, and here it's showing 500 75 times. So let's convert this into integer format, and now again let's try how to get our desired output. Okay, so let's convert var1 is equal to integer of var1. Okay, So now don't get confused with what is integer and all. Okay, I will discuss in more detail in the coming videos what is integer, what is float, and what are the other data types in Python programming. Okay, so now we have converted this particular var1 into integer format. Okay, and now let's again try to print this particular cell, and now let's see like what would be the output in Python programming, or now let's see like whether do we get the desired output or not. Okay, my salary in terms of rupees is, okay, so now let's run this particular cell. Yes, we are getting the desired output. My salary in terms of rupees is 37,500. So this process of converting var1 from a string format to an integer format, or the process of converting a data type from one format to another data type, is known as typecasting. So this is all about the typecasting in Python programming, guys. So today we have discussed some of the conditions in using the variables in Python programming, and we also discussed about the typecasting in Python programming. Okay, so that's all about this particular video, guys, and in the coming videos we are going to see much more topics related to the Python programming playlist, and we will also try to understand the Python programming in a very simple way, so that everybody can understand the Python programming. So my aim is to teach the Python programming in a very simple way, and so that everybody can understand. So let's not go directly into the complexities of the Python programming. So we'll try to revolve more around basics, so that if you are strong with the basics, like you can probably in the future, you can not probably, you will definitely understand the complexities of the Python programming. Okay. Hello, my name is Pavan Kumar and welcome to my YouTube channel. Guys, continuing our playlist towards Python programming. Today we'll try to understand some of the data types in Python programming, and we also try to understand the type of the data in Python programming with respect to the variables in Python programming. Okay, so if you're visiting my channel for the first time, please do subscribe to my channel and please press the bell notification icon to get all updates related to my YouTube channel. So let's begin our journey towards Python programming. Okay, so this is the topic, guys, which we are going to discuss today: data types in Python programming. Okay, so let's begin our journey. So before we begin, so let's mention some of the data types in Python programming. Okay, so there are many different types of data types in Python programming. So as I told you, like we'll focus more on basics rather than directly jumping into the complexities. Let's mention some of the very basic data types which are present in Python programming. Okay, so the first data types, for the first data type in Python programming is integer. Data types in Python. Okay, so the first data type is, as I told you, integer. Okay, I will tell you what exactly the integer is, and I will also tell you what are the data types which we are going to discuss. The second data type is float floating data type, so we'll mention it as float. So the third data type which we are going to discuss today is string, and the fourth data type which we are going to discuss today is boolean. Okay, so today we are going to discuss these four different types of data types in Python programming. There are other different data types also in Python programming. So that we'll understand in the coming days. So as of today, like, we'll discuss only these four data types. Okay, so let's run this particular cell and with the mentioned comments. Okay, so integer, so any number like 1 2 3 to n is considered as integer in Python programming. Okay, so you take any number, guys, either from 1 2 3 4 5 up to 100 or anything up to n is considered as integer. Okay, so this is considered as integer. We'll mention it in comments so that it would be easy. Okay, and the second data type which we are going to discuss today here, as I mentioned, float. So any decimal number like 1.1 or 2.1 or 2.9 or 6.5, so any decimal number is considered as floating point decimal, floating point data type. Floating we will just mention it as float data type. Okay, so the third data type which we are going to discuss today is string. So anything which is present in between double quotes or a single quote is considered as string data type. Okay, so you can mention any name, or you can mention India, or you can mention a history, or you can mention it as a Python. Okay, so this is a string data type. So string data type is basically represented as str in Python programming. Okay, so that you will come to know in the coming videos as we move ahead into Python programming. And the fourth data type is Boolean. I think Boolean data type, not data type, I think true or false, like AND gate, OR gate, NOT gate, or XOR gate, or any different types of gates which you have studied in your school days or college days, or if you have studied engineering, like if you have studied a logic gates as a subject, so probably you might have studied the true or false, like AND gate, OR gate, like that. So for true, like, we basically represent with 1, or if it is a false, we represent it by 0 in your school days or a college days. Okay, so here we'll understand the Boolean data type with respect to true or false. Okay, so let's take an example of integer, and let's try to find out what type of data type it is with respect to the variables. Okay, so I will just take it as x is equal to 10. I have just mentioned x is equal to 10. X is a variable, and 10 is the value which we have assigned to that particular variable. And now let's try to run this particular cell. Okay, and now suppose if we want to find the type of the data type, x means we have to mention it as type, open the bracket, and mention it as x, and now press Ctrl Enter. So now you can see the data type of x is integer. Okay, suppose if I want to mention this particular x is equal to 10, and if I want to represent it in the form of float, means you can mention it like print of float of x. Okay, now let's run this particular cell. Okay, so as I told you, like, any decimal number is considered as a float in Python programming. Okay, so we have understood int and we have understood float. Now let's take an example of another float to understand more clearly. Let's mention y is equal to 5.678 something. We'll give like this. Okay, and we'll give some other number here. Let's mention it as 58.65874589. Okay, and now let's try to run this particular cell. And now let's check the type of y. Okay, we'll mention it as y here. And now let's try to run this particular cell, and it's a floating point data type, so it's mentioned as float. So we have understood int and we have understood float. Okay, now suppose if we want to print y with respect to integer, now let's see like whether it is possible or not. Okay, we'll check here itself, int of y. Any idea guys, if I run this particular cell, what might be the output? Because y I have given it as 58.65874589 blah blah. Okay, now let's try to run this particular cell. Okay, we are getting 58 because we are printing the variable y with respect to integer. Okay, if it is integer, it will not print anything after this point. It will not print any decimal number. It will print only that number before the decimal point. Okay, so we have understood integer and we have understood floating. And now hello, my name is Pavan Kumar and welcome to my YouTube channel. Guys, continuing our playlist towards Python programming, understand string. So let's take an example of name is equal to any word. We'll just mention it as history. Okay, so I have given name as a variable and I have assigned history for that particular variable. And now let's try to run this particular cell. Okay, now let's try to understand what type of data type is name. As I told you, string in Python programming is represented as str. Now let's see what type of data type is name. So name is a string data type. As I told you, like name or string is represented by double quotes or a single quote. Now let's try to understand with respect to the single quote whether do we get the same output or not. We'll give name as national. Okay, let's make it as name1 of national. And now let's try to run this particular cell. And now let's try to understand the type of name1. Now what might be the output guys? So this is also a string. So string is basically represented with either single quotes or double quotes. Okay, so now let's try to understand the fourth data type, that is boolean. Okay, so in your school days or a college days, or if you are an engineering student, you might have studied a subject called discrete mathematics. Okay, so where you have studied true, false and all. And if you have studied a logic gates in your engineering days, you might have studied about logic gates like AND gate, OR gate, NOT gate, XOR gate. Okay, so let's see like what are the different types of logic gates here. Probably then you might get an idea. Logic gates with respect to the truth table. Okay, so you might have studied AND gate, OR gate, XOR gate, NOT gate, NAND gate and all. Okay, so there you might have studied true, false and all. Okay, so here we'll try to understand true and false with respect to the boolean operations in Python programming. Okay, suppose let's take an example of true and true. So what is the value guys? If you have studied discrete mathematics, what is the value of true and true? Okay, yeah, that's correct, it's true. Okay, so let's take an example of true and false. What might be the output? let's see, false. Okay, so let's see with respect to false and true. So this is also false. So and we'll see with respect to false, false and false. Okay, so this is also false. Okay, so this is all about like a boolean data type in Python programming. So we'll see with respect to the data types and how we exactly uh, learn a boolean operation with respect to data types. Okay, so let's take an example of let's take an example of b is equal to 5. Okay, and now let's run this particular cell, and suppose if we want to see what type of data type b is equal to 5, and if we want to see with respect to boolean operation, so then what might be the answer, guys? I have given b is equal to 0. Don't worry why I have given b is equal to 0. Okay, then I will tell you why exactly I have given variable b is equal to 5, and why we are getting this particular boolean value as the output. Okay, so print bool of b. So what might be the value? Exactly, the answer will be true. Okay, so when you define a variable, so here I have taken example as b is equal to 5, and the number is greater than 0. Okay, so any value if you give to a variable, for example any number which you give like 1 2 3 or anything, 1 2 3 4 34 or anything which you give, if it is greater than 0, and if you try to print the boolean value for that particular variable, the answer will be always true, guys. Suppose if I take an example of h is equal to 0. Okay, and now try to run this particular cell. Okay, and now if I want to check the boolean value for that particular variable h, then it will be, sorry, I have missed boolean operation. Okay, and suppose if I want to check this particular value, means it will print false. Okay, so whenever you assign a variable with 0, the answer will be always false with respect to boolean data type, and anything which is greater than 0, and even if you give b is equal to 0.1, and even if you give 0.1 also, and the answer will be true, guys. Okay, so when you assign a variable with respect to a value which is greater than 0, then the answer will be always true, and when you assign a variable which is equal to 0, then the answer will be always false. Okay, so we'll take an example of we'll take another example, and now let's try to understand that. Okay, suppose if I give x is equal to 150.25. okay, and what is the type of data type, guys? So this is a data type of, and you all know that this is a float data type. Okay, suppose if I want to represent x in terms of integer, means what you have to do is print off, and I want to represent in terms of integer, means int of x. So what might be the output, guys? So integer means it should be a non-decimal number, so we have given variable x is equal to 150.25. so what might be the output, guys? Let's try to run and check it out. So it should be 150. Okay, we are getting 150 exactly. Suppose if I want to check the data type of x, means we can directly check type of x, which will give it as float. Okay, and suppose let's take an example of integer 145. Okay, let's take an example of variable y is equal to 145, and suppose if I want to represent y in terms of float, means print of float of y. Okay, and now suppose if I run this particular cell, means it should give 145.0. yeah, it's giving 145.0. okay, so this is how we represent integers as float and floating numbers as integers in Python programming with respect to variable and data types. Okay, so this is all about the data types in Python programming. So in the coming days we'll try to understand more number of other data types like list, tuples, and some other data types in Python programming. Okay, so today we have understood with respect to very basic concepts in Python programming on data types and using variables with respect to the conversion of or the representation of type data types, or like we can say like a representation of integer numbers as floats and floating point numbers as integers with respect to the data types. Okay, so hello all, my name is Pavan Kumar and welcome to my YouTube channel. Guys, continuing our playlist towards Python programming. Today in this particular video we are going to see string operations in Python programming, and we also see like how to represent the new line in Python programming. Okay, so before we begin our main topic, if you are visiting my channel for the first time, please do subscribe to my channel and please press the bell notification icon to get all updates related to my YouTube channel. Okay, so let's begin our journey towards Python programming. Not begin, like let's continue our journey towards Python programming, because already we have started our journey towards Python programming. Okay, so in our previous videos, like we have seen the data types in Python programming, and we also saw some of the arithmetic operations in Python programming, and we also saw like what are integers, what are floats, and what are boolean operations and string. Okay, so let's understand some of the basic concepts related to the string operations in Python programming. Okay, so I have already told you like anything which is represented in between single quotes or a double quotes is considered as a string in Python programming. Okay, so let's take an example. Okay, and let's try to understand some of the basic concepts related to the string operations in Python programming. Okay, so let's take an example of string 1. Okay, so let's mention string 1 is equal to, you can give directly any value like string 1. Let's take some kind of input. Let's give some input and let's perform some of the basic operations. Okay, so here I will give it as input. Okay, and you can give any question, guys, like let's mention which is your native place. Okay, so I will just mention which is your native place and I will just press enter. So that is string 1. So now let's go for string 2. Okay, so here also I will give some kind of input with question mark, which is your favorite place, and since how long you have been staying there. Okay, now let's run this particular cell and now let's see. So here it is asking which is your native place. I will just mention it as India. Now press enter. Since how long you have been staying there, I will just mention it as 25 years. Okay, so now let's press enter again. Okay, so here we'll try to give some kind of question mark, guys, so that you can understand easily and it will be very clear to understand, and we'll give it some space so that it will be easy for us to understand. So I will give it as India, and here I will mention as 25 years. Okay, now I think it's clearly visible. Okay, so since there is space in between, so okay, so we have taken string 1 and string 2. Okay, now let's perform the operation by using those particular strings. I will just give it as the native place of Pavan is comma. I will give it as string 1. So any idea, like guys, like what might be the output now? Exactly, so the output what we are supposed to get is the native place of Pavan is India. Exactly, we are getting the same output. Okay, so now let's take with the example by using the string 2 also. We'll give it as print Pavan is staying in India since string 2. So now output should be Pavan is staying in India since 25 years, because string 2 we have already given the input as 25 years. Okay, and now suppose if you want to concatenate these two strings and if you want some other output, you can also give it like print string 1 plus string 2. This is also one of the possible way where you can get the output India 25 years, and here you can see after India it's there is a continuation with 25 and you are not seeing any spaces. Suppose if you want to add space, you can also add space. Okay, now let's try to run this particular cell. Here you can see India 25 years, and now suppose let's try to print in another way the native place of Pavan is string 1 and he stays there since string 2. Now what might be the output, guys? Let's see what might be the output. So the native place of Pavan is India and he stays there since 25 years. So this is how we perform the string concatenation in Python programming. Okay, so we have understood what is string and how to give the input if you are defining a variable by using the string, and we also saw like how to perform the string concatenation. Okay, now suppose if you want to represent a new line in Python programming, let's take an example. My I know programming languages like Python and Java. Okay, suppose if you run, you will directly get this particular output. There is no doubt, since you already know like how to print and how to get the output. Okay, and suppose if you want these Python and Java in the new line, means I will tell you like how to use the new line. Okay, print I know programming languages like, if you want to print it in new line means you have to press /n. Okay, and for this also you can press /n. Okay, now let's run this particular cell. You can see I know programming languages like Python and Java. Here you can see there is a space initially, and after that you can see Python. So if you want to remove that particular space, remove that space here, and now run that particular cell. So I know programming languages like Python, Java. Okay, so this is how you represent the new line in Python programming, and we have seen some of the basic string operations, string concatenation, and how to represent the new line in Python programming. So that's